Fire in the hole.
Not too long ago, there was a time when tactical shooters went through a bit of a dry spell, leaving fans wanting something to sink their teeth into, and a pretty significant gap in the market. Fast forward to today, and a load of dev companies have thrown their games into the gap, giving players a bunch of games to try, and a wide range of options when it comes to gunplay, feel, and technical mechanics. Today, we're going to be putting two similar tactical shooters side by side, and letting you know which one we recommend. These are the two SWAT shooters 0 Hour and Ready or Not. Both of these games are SWAT-based first-person tactical shooters, meaning that it's close quarters, breach and clear style gameplay, where players clear hostiles and complete objectives such as rescuing hostages and defusing bomb threats. Both games have weapon customizations and a selection of tactical gear, and both games have relatively similar mechanics. And with some areas of the game being almost identical, like mission objectives, mag checks, and the need to gather weapons from hostiles to name a few. But where the game begins to differ is in the feel of the movement and gunplay, and the visuals and the graphics. Ready or Not feels like a more refined game, with better visuals, more mechanics, better loadout options, and an overall more polished experience. This higher level of visual quality means that the game draws you in a little bit better, and the customization options give you both lethal and non-lethal options, as well as a wider range of tactical gear to choose from, meaning that there are more options open to you regarding how you want to tackle each mission. The gunplay in Ready or Not feels more realistic than that of 0 Hour, making engagements feel tense and engaging. To its credit, 0 Hour gunplay does feel great. It's snappy, it's responsive, and it's satisfying, and which one you think is better will probably depend on your personal preference. Where Ready or Not is more realistic and difficult, 0 Hour is more arcadey and snappy. Both feel great, both suit the genre extremely well, but they both do it in a slightly different way. If you're a fan of the genre, you can't really go wrong with either game, but the one you prefer will probably depend on whether you like sharp, responsive playstyle and a slightly more arcade feel that you'll find in 0 Hour, or the more realistic, immersive and challenging feel of Ready or Not. One thing I would say that is if you play solo, Ready or Not gives you the ability to bring AI teammates into the mission, which can be given orders and help you as you go through each objective, and Ready or Not does not provide this same functionality.
So at this stage we want to go through some of the details that outline the differences in order to give you the best idea of what might be best suited to you. Of course, there's no reason you cannot try both, and really, despite being extremely similar games, there are very specific differences that may make you lean either way. Let's start with the general game menus and interfaces. Both have areas to try out guns and attachments, but approach it in different ways. 0 Hour keeps you in the main menu. If you want to check a loadout, you must go in the training area where you get to try things out, then you party up with your friends and the leader selects the mission again from the menu. Once you're in the game, you then get the time to decide where you want to spawn and draw on a map to visualize your team's pathing. In Ready or Not, you and your party join a lobby, where you can run around in some sort of HQ, going to different rooms to change your look, something not found in 0 Hour, customize gear, or select missions without having to leave each other's presence, and loadouts are decided in advance of actually selecting the mission. The movement in both is pretty slow, forcing you into more tactical engagements rather than the run and gun mentality of other shooters. Both have leaning for safer looking around corners. Where they differ is the ability to repel buildings in 0 Hour, as well as the camera motion with player movement. Ready or Not seems a bit smoother like a typical FPS game, however with 0 Hour you can more easily notice the motion of every step you take. Visually, Ready or Not is the better looking title, not only in graphical fidelity but actual map design too. It's more immersive and feels like you're actually exploring an environment, as opposed to 0 Hour, which tends to have a more compartmentalized approach of small box rooms and some larger open spaces that need to be cleared one at a time. The differences in gunplay are hard to describe as both are hardcore, extremely quick time to kill playstyles. Although we occasionally feel that the hit detection is a little off in 0 Hour. Both feel great to play, but the sheer variety of guns and attachments is greater in Ready or Not, and to us a little more noticeable in terms of picking your loadout for a particular strategy. This could be because you can have gunfights at quite varied ranges, so what you pick matters a bit more. On the other hand, for 0 Hour, we're often indifferent in what we pick, generally going for whatever we fancy in the moment. These differences highlight the core reasons to play one over the other. Zero Hour is a lot easier to play in a structured way, and is designed in a way that makes starting at different spawns actually beneficial to the run. One starting point may allow a standard approach through the front door, whereas another to rappel up a wall and clear the open spaces from the windows at each floor. Ready or Not will always start you in the same location, however you can navigate the map by taking different routes, but it doesn't give you the advantages in the same way. Zero Hour also has simpler approaches to each engagement. You'll mainly check doors for grenade traps and approach each room closing the angle as you aim across it. Ready or Not generally has considerably more angles to keep an eye on, leading to a lot more situations of being shot from directions you weren't looking in. Because of this, it requires a lot more forethought, remembering what doors or areas you've been to and dealt with as you push forward. That being said, this happens in Zero Hour 2 just to a lesser extent.
Oh, I got one shot.
Now of course this is a co-op tactical shooter. I'll say now that if you want to play solo but still with a squad, Ready or Not is the only option. You get some decent squad features like choosing breach options that your AI squad will carry out pretty effectively. But if you like to play with friends or other people, there are some differences here. Zero Hour allows you to tap a teammate on the shoulder. Not useful for us as we use voice comms while playing, but interesting nonetheless. On the Ready or Not front, you have the mirror cam. This allows you to coordinate your squad to take out enemies through the door and give general status updates. You can also get access to your team's head cam to see not only their whereabouts and situation, but their health status too. And use non-lethal weapons to encourage enemies to give up or sort of incapacitate them, while the rest of your team can provide the firepower. Both games have rules of engagement which define your levels of humanity when approaching a potential suspect. If you shoot someone who isn't being aggressive, you take a penalty, and in general this is a system that adds a much appreciated layer to this genre. You don't just run in guns blazing, you have to consider that if someone gives up, you must take the opportunity to apprehend them safely. Ready or Not has a number of levels to this. There's a variety of people you come across, some clearly armed, right down to your standard looking civilian, and each with varying probabilities to fight back. We didn't have much issue with noticing when somebody was going to be aggressive to us, however did occasionally feel like we received a penalty unfairly. Enemies that give up will shift around on their knees to move out of the way, which makes it easier to apprehend them. Also, the option to breach rooms lets you use a mirror cam to look on the other side, blow it up with explosives, or blast the lock with a shotgun. Zero Hour, on the other hand, generally has similar looking NPCs, so you mostly have to consider whether or not they decide to give up or not. Being able to judge their gestures that make them considered hostile has improved through updates over the times we've played the game, but we still occasionally get stumped by an enemy who draws his gun quickly. They also have an amazing feature for what is, in our opinion, a really tedious part of this game type, and that is finding the last remaining suspects. In Zero Hour, you can interrogate someone you apprehend to get the location of the last guys. As you can see how many enemies remain, it creates an engaging way to close out the mission, as opposed to Ready or Not where you aren't told how many enemies there are, and at times you may find yourself searching all the rooms you've already been to in order to find out the location that you've missed. HP is handled slightly differently too. In Zero Hour you have a set amount of 100 HP, and taking damage will cause a permanent reduction for the rest of the mission, making times where you get shot down to 5 or 10 early on quite nerve-wracking for the rest of the round. In Ready or Not you have this recovery system, where if you're wounded, you'll need to find cover to deal with it, causing the wounded area to be a weak spot for future engagements. As both titles are early access, you can assume that there'll be a few bugs here or there, and you'd be right. The good news is that none are particularly game-breaking, and fall in the ballpark of the occasional audio bug in Ready or Not, or a phantom NPC that doesn't really exist in Zero Hour, for example. Although of the two, we experienced bugs in Zero Hour as a more frequent occurrence. Content-wise, Zero Hour is just ahead. Both have enough to have a great time, but as far as number of missions available, Ready or Not has a little catching up to do. And finally, where Ready or Not uniquely has the AI squad for those solo players, Zero Hour is the only one currently with PvP. Something that people seem to enjoy a fair bit. We certainly had fun in our sessions. Everything we've mentioned paints a picture of the differences in atmosphere. For Ready or Not, the extra customization, including personal look, seamless integration of mission select and weapons range, all generate this feeling of being part of a real tactical squad. The quick nature of Zero Hour's setup, along with the gunplay being simpler in feel, with more close-range combat and simpler rules of engagement, it gives the gameplay a more arcade-like feel.
At the end of the day, both Zero Hour and Ready or Not are both great additions to the genre, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to try both if you love tactical shooters. However, if we had to pick one, it would be Ready or Not. The reason for this is the overall feel of the game mechanically, and the level of polish and refinement it has over Zero Hour. Graphically, it has the edge, adding a depth and atmosphere that adds to the intense feel of the close quarters combat. The customization is great, the range of equipment is better, and the gunplay, through being more realistic, further enhances the feel of being in a high-stakes engagement. In addition, Ready or Not is more solo-friendly. Providing AI teammates for you to instruct on your mission is a great thing to have and something that 0 Hour is missing. All of this lends itself to what we look for in a tactical shooter, and what we believe fans of the genre will be looking for. For these reasons, we recommend Ready or Not. Let us know which game you prefer in the comments below. We're the Bullet Sponges, and we'll see you in the next one.